We're all going to the same destination. We're all going to the grave. The only difference is what type of ride do you want to have on the way to the grave? So if you exchange hours of your life, you give up a piece of your life to go to work for money, and then you do not use it to consume these things, to have these experiences, you've essentially wasted your life. I want to go to university, I want to take out a loan, I want to get a house, etc. This is something that the culture had put on them, right, that they were taught, and you just accept it, and you go through life on autopilot, not really in touch with what you want out of life, what you want out of this ride before you die.
Okay, great. Bill, nice to meet you virtually. Hello, Austin.
Great.
Hello, Barcelona.
Good to meet you. Good to meet you.
We haven't met before. I'm Marcin, Osman. I'm your Polish publisher. So, Fly with Zero.
Thank you.
Gonna be in Polish quite soon. I think it's a matter of maybe 2, maybe 3 months. Now we are working on the book to translate it for Polish language. So I'm super happy that you jump on so early to help us promote your ideas to Polish audience.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm happy to promote them. I hope people, buy the book, read the book, but more importantly, just absorb the lessons. Get the message out and apply the message.
I'm a super strange guy because when I read book, I implement it as soon as possible. So there's a crazy thing happened like the previous 2-3 months after reading your book. You helped me decide that I want to buy a house. And right now I'm sitting in the house that your book helped me to buy because I had money, I had cash on a bank account, and I was delaying buying this house. Right. This book helped me to buy the house, the car, and the bike.
So to help you decide, hey, what is important in your life at this time? What is going to be the experiences that you want to have, and to make sure that you have those experiences now.
Yeah, because I can earn money. I have cash on my account. However, I was thinking, okay, I can spend this money later on. It's quite opposite to most of my friends that they are spending money all the time to the zero, almost zero.
Right.
And I had issues with spending money for things that I need. For example, we rented house before, and now we bought this house that I'm here. Because tomorrow I will become father for a second time. My wife is going to hospital tomorrow. And this book helped me decide, hey, it's important for me right now to buy it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, it's I don't want to confuse people, say this is a book that tells you just go buy this or go buy that. What it tells you to do is think about what's important to you, right? What are your priorities, and what experiences you want to have, and make sure that you allocate those experiences in the proper time frame, right? Mm-hmm. You don't necessarily want to buy a house when you're 90. Right. I'm just guessing, but that's probably true, right? Like 90 is not the time when you want to buy a house, right? And you want to have these experiences of riding your bike now, enjoying your house now, and inviting friends over, et cetera. And so you were probably thinking in the abstract, oh, I can do this later. And you were kind of out of touch with the fact that later you push it far enough, either you're unable to do it or you're dead and you don't ever do it. And so this book is about modeling your life to make sure you get the most out of it.
And actually, you helped me understand that I need this house right now, not in a 5-6 year time, because I need it for my young kids, baby kids, now, the first 3-5 years, and then we can travel. So probably I'm going to sell this house in 5 years, but for the next 5 years, I will be here making sure that my family is feeling comfortable with, the neighbors, school, and so on and so on.
Excellent.
When I ask my audience about the book and this concept and you, I describe this book, hey, there's a guy saying that you need to die with zero, but not earlier and not later. And most of people disagree with me with this concept. So can you explain it in your words? Because they cannot understand why they should die with zero instead of dying with $1 million on bank account. That's the most critical thing to understand your philosophy from my point of view.
Well, it's quite simple. Like most people, and I would say all people, right, go to work to survive, right, to pay for food, shelter, et cetera. And then also to acquire money to do the things that they want to do, right? So once you met your basic needs, you're going to work, you're exchanging hours of your life, right? You're giving up a portion of your life in exchange for money, but it's not just to sit there, right? It's to go on a trip, go on a date, get married, go to a club, give to charity, whatever it may be, whatever your values are. That's what the money's for, right? So if you exchange hours of your life, you give up a piece of your life to go to work for money, and then you do not use it to consume these things, to have these experiences, you've essentially wasted your life. You've done something that you, out of the millions of things you can do on planet Earth while you're alive, you've done something that would probably be choice number 1,150, right? For nothing, right? And I'm not saying that you don't like your job while you're there. Like a lot of people love what they do or like what they do, but it's not necessarily the exact thing they would be doing, right? Very, very, very few of us are, this is exactly what I would do, and I want to do this to the day I die, right? And there are people that way. And even if the money is kind of a byproduct of what you're doing what you love. Let's say you're an actor and you love acting, right? That's all you want to do is you act, and they just shower you with money, right? That money still represents an opportunity for you to improve the experiences in your life, to improve your acting experience, maybe take acting lessons, maybe to go out and show off your skills to people who couldn't afford seeing your skills, other priorities, right? And by exchanging your life for an activity, right? Hours of your life, and I'm just going to skip the hours of your life, but exchanging pieces of your life for an activity, for money that is used to have other experiences, and then to just die with it is a complete waste.
Mhm. In Poland, there's a kind of way of living. Like you go to your university, you graduate, you get married, you take a loan, you buy a house, you have a kid, and you're 45 years old. Bam. So what would you advise to such a people to help them implement this die with zero concept? Because most of my friends, they are living such a model, saying that,
Yeah,
okay.
So I missed part of that. It broke up, but what I think you were going into is kind of the autopilot of Poland, right? Like each culture has its own autopilot,
It's like,
right?
there you go.
And this was something that people have learned wherever they are, right? It's not something they came out of the womb and saying, this is exactly what I want to do, right? I want to go to university, I want to take out a loan, I want to get a house, etc. This is something that the culture had put on them, right? That they were taught, and you just accept it, and you go through life on autopilot, not really in touch with what you want out of life, what you want out of this ride before you die. Because we're all going to the same destination. We're all going to the grave, right? Every single one of us, right? So the only difference is, what type of ride do you want to have on the way to the grave, right? And in each culture, right, you find a lot of people kind of what I call autopilot, just going through the motions and doing what everybody else has done before them, right? This trend has started. And in Poland, you've laid out one version of autopilot. We go to university, we get a degree, we take out a loan, we get a house, blah, 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 and then we die, right? And in Asia, it might be another one. In the United States, it might be these versions of autopilot, et cetera. And this book encourages people to snap out of it, kind of slap them across the face and say, think about what you really want. Think about what experiences you want to have. And one of the things I do is I try to get them deeply in touch with the fact that they're going to die. This ride will end, okay? And this vacation here on planet Earth will end. It's over. Just like when you go on a vacation to, let's say you go to vacation to France, and you're like, I want to go see the Eiffel Tower, and I want to do X, Y, and Z, and you run around, you do everything, and you meet the people, and you go to the restaurants, because this vacation is going to end. And most people behave as if they're going to live forever. And so in my vacation example, they go to Paris, they stay in their apartment, they order room service, they do nothing, they die. The vacation's over, right? And so, if that's what you want to do, and you really thought about it, and you're really in touch with yourself, that's fine, right? But this book is about modeling your life so that you get the most out of it, of what you want according to your values, not according to what everybody else is doing, not according to, people have been doing for 100 years that just kind of like via osmosis got into your brain and like, this is what we do, right? But what you want. And then once you've identified those things, you can map out the adventure of your life, the ride, the most fulfilling life that you can possibly have, right? Mm-hmm. And the resources that we have in this book, right? It's a modeling book. It's about modeling your life So the resources we use are your wealth, your health, and your time. Those are the three variables I use, right? There's other sub variables and optimizations within your health, right? There's books on optimizing your health. There's books on how to optimize your time, right? How to do things faster, quicker, cheaper, etc. And your wealth. There's books on how to make money better or how to make it easier or how to make it. But I take these two variables, right? And I optimize for net fulfillment. This book is about net fulfillment over net worth. And it's about not wasting your resources while you're here on the planet. How to optimally use them at each phase in your life so that you get whatever it is you want to do. Whether it's you want to go to the disco a zillion times or you want to give to charity or whatever. I don't tell people how to live your life. It's not a morality book in terms of like what you should be spending your money on.
What you should do or you should not, right?
No, it's none of that. It's given whatever it is you want to do, here's how you optimize for that. But the key, the trick, the one thing I cannot, tell you, right, or even do is what is it that you want out of this adventure? You have to get off autopilot. You have to think about what you want. What do you want your life to look like in your 30s? What do you want your life to look like when you're 45? What do you want in your 50s? What do you want in your 60s, right? Your last remaining years, 70s, 80s, right? And then model for that and get the most out of it.
I was familiar with the concept of the bucket list, but you and your book show me one tiny thing I was missing, the timing. Like most of people have like dreams and bucket lists, like list of 50 things I want to do before I die, but they plan to actually do it like last year of their lives with no health, no possibility to climb Kilimanjaro and so on. So you helped me put my goals in a timeline. Like, okay, I need house now. Not in 10 years, because kids will be, at school or university. So why people are missing the timing, the resources that they have now?
I think it's just another version of autopilot and not really thinking about it, right? Like not really thinking that it's going to end. And people think, well, I have this bucket list. I want to go skydiving. I want to go build wells in Africa. I want to go to the strip club, whatever it is. It could be completely hedonistic. It could be charitable. It doesn't matter. And they're forgetting two things. One, that your ability to do certain activities declines as you age, right? You have mental decline, you have lung capacity decline, you have bone frailty, you have just plain muscle strength, all these things, and your attitude changes. Actually, your actual personality, your willingness to do these things changes, right? Like I tell people often, like my glow sticks days in the clubs, they're pretty much done. You know what I mean? It was fun back then, but now it's not as much fun to me, And so, they're also forgetting about their priorities also may conflict with these activities, right? Using my club example, if you want to go to club like 5,000 times before you die, right? Maybe it's better to do that before you get married and have kids, right? Because you have higher priorities that may interfere with that, right? Or hike Kilimanjaro or et cetera, right? And so, the example I use with people, I said, life is like Tetris, okay? The game where you put down the shapes and you got to put them together, right? If you don't get the order right, you don't get the high score. Right. In life, you got to get the order right. Right. There's certain things that happen in a sequence that will interfere with each other. I want to have kids. Well, there's certain things that you're not going to be able to do or will be suboptimal when you have kids.
After 50 or 60 years old, of course. Yes.
Right. And then there are certain activities like I want to hike Kilimanjaro or I want to go to St. Petersburg and see the churches and climb up the steps and walk around the balconies like they let you do. Might not be the best time to wait till you're 60, because I went to St. Petersburg. I saw tons of tour buses with older people, right? Not a single one climbed the 211 steps to walk around the churches, right? So St. Petersburg was different for me than for them. They didn't get the same St. Petersburg. I'm not saying they didn't enjoy their trip, but they didn't enjoy it as much as they would have at a different time period, right? And so sometimes saving and saying, oh, I'm going to go to St. Petersburg and visit these churches and climb them later in life, you actually have wasted your money because you don't get as much as St. Petersburg. It would have been better to stay in a youth hostel when you're younger and go and see St. Petersburg because you get more value and you get a better experience.
I totally get you, because when my friends were building houses, taking loans, and making kids, me and my wife were traveling as backpackers in Asia, exploring amazing things. And now I feel like, okay, I did it. Now I can stay at this house for a couple of years, raise kids, and then move on. I don't feel like a missing opportunity that I should go to travel. I did it. I feel great now because I know the feeling, the taste of the food, and the smell of the Asia and so on. That's
Right. And
great.
so you're cashing in on what I call the memory dividend. Um,
Mhm.
you know, a lot of people, your life is a sum of your experiences. Experiences are your choices. And I use experiences in the broadest sense of the word, right? Go to work, go to school, go on a trip, taste Asian food, etc. And when you recall those, when you talk about it, like you're talking about your trip going to Asia, right? You relive a piece of that trip. The same endorphins, your brain actually relives that trip. And that's what I call the memory dividend. So you got the joy of planning the trip, the joy of going on the trip, and then every time you recall it and every time you think about it, you get what I call the memory dividend. The same way that you put money in the bank and it pays interest and it pays you a little bit of dividend when you invest in a bank and a savings account or you invest in a stock, the same way when you invest in an experience, you get what's called the memory dividend. That could be your first kiss, your first relationship, your first hire, your first paycheck, your first A. All these experiences produce what I call memory dividends, right? And the second one and the third one. And this is kind of actually what we retire on. We don't retire on money. We retire on memories. When you're too old to move, your health is too bad, etc. Generally, you like to have people come over and remind you of the good old days and talk about all the times and things that you did. And there's a little bit of foreshadowing in our life because that's what we do now. Whenever you meet somebody new or you're hanging out with your friends, a significant portion of the conversation will be about things that have happened, and you will enjoy them and you'll reminisce about them and you'll think about them, etc. And when you're talking about those experiences, they actually create a new experience, right, at the dinner table. And so they're radioactive. They actually compound, right? And so this goes in the book. I discuss this calculus that you have to do on whether or not you should delay a trip or an experience. Let's just call it an experience because I don't want to just say trips. Whether you delay an experience or not, right? Would you rather take a trip now or take 2 trips 10 years from now? Well,
Mm.
let's think about the memory dividends of having the trip now. Let's think about my priorities in the order of my life and how I want to do that, right? All these things have to go in. And maybe it's 2 trips later, maybe it's the trip now, right? But it's a mental model and a framework for you to make the proper decisions so you get the most out of it. So you get the most fulfillment, right? Because these experiences, that sums up to our net fulfillment.
Yeah, and many people spend money on dumb shit instead of buying one proper high quality thing. For example, me and my wife were extremely poor when we traveled in Asia. However, at the same time, we visited some of Michelin star restaurants because we could eat from buy food from the market during the daytime, but at the evenings we want to spend money to this experience connected with the food and top chefs. And when now I see this top chefs program on Netflix, I was in these restaurants. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you were optimizing your trip on how you want to do. You're like, this is the experience I want to have. So during this day, I'm going to do this and this will be fun, whatever, but I'm really going to get to go to the Michelin star. And that's the experience I want to do. And you were, no matter what you do, right? Like I might say like, well, I wouldn't have done that or he wouldn't have done that, but you're optimizing for you, right? So you're off autopilot thinking about how can I get the most out of this trip in Asia, right? Like kind of like this little sub optimization. And my book is like, how do you get the most out of your life?
Mm.
This vacation you have, this 86-year vacation you have on Earth, you have a vacation, it's going to end. How do you get the most out of it?
I love this book for many reasons, but one is that you explain everything with the facts and numbers. That's really awesome. It's like story. That's my point of view. No, I will give you some answers which proves that I'm right or facts are right. I
Right.
love this. So you were saying about rich friends that they were afraid of spending money instead of enjoy the life because they were saving for the last day of their lives. So instead of taking care of his health or her health now, they're spending money at the end of their lives to get better shape,
Yeah.
but they
Yeah.
cannot.
Yeah. That's a sad fact that, you know, the biggest expenditures people have, right? Like they'll take their money, whether at the last years of your life, right? Your health expenses skyrocket, right? And then the last 6 months of your life are generally the system fighting to keep you alive, right? There's technology, et cetera. So either the government, a combination of the government, your insurance, or yourself, your own money, will spend all this money to keep you alive, generally in poor condition, right? Maybe you don't even want to be alive, right? In a bed where people come to visit you, you're stinky because you're in a bed in a hospital, et cetera. Instead of allocating that money when you're healthy and seeing them at a dinner table or a trip or whatever experience or a charity event or the club or whatever it is, and having these experiences and memories of you, right? They're allocating money at the last minute to keep you on a ventilator or barely alive, where you can't really have an enjoyable experience. And for me, I'm just like, no, I'll see you at the grave, right? I am going to have the most rich and rewarding experiences now, right? Not wait till later to deploy resources to keep me alive for another 3 months, right? So I'm going to have an empty life, an unfulfilled, not an empty life, but an unfulfilled life, right? A suboptimal life, and take that money and tack it on to the end of my life. It just didn't make any sense to me, right? And the data shows that, right? Like we have the data that shows that. We have the data that shows that the older people get, the less money they spend. They're saving money. Like, I'm going to need the money to do this. And when I retire, I'm going to do that or whatever. And I'm like, they retire and they don't do it.
My friend's grandfather died in very poor conditions, like, as you said, stinky and, crazy stuff. And then after his death, they found jars of banknotes hidden somewhere in the garden and in the shelves behind some hidden walls. Like, what the fuck? That's super crazy. He died because he was poor. In the same time, he was quite rich, but this money was closed in the jars.
Well, yeah, the culture and the mentality of autopilot, it's strong, right? And fear is strong. Like I try and go into a little bit of the reasons why people do this, because it's illogical, it's suboptimal, it doesn't make any sense. So it's kind of like, why do people do this, right? And one of the things I blame is autopilot and people just kind of going through life, not really thinking and getting in touch with themselves about it. And some of it's the historical fears passed on them, right? The Great Depression, my mom is like, like the Great Depression's coming again and we got to save for the Great Depression or whatever it is, right? Like just kind of this auto fear response, right? The idea of having no money is so scary for people, both from an ego standpoint. What are my friends going to think? I'm going to be poor and they're going to mock me. Also from like, am I going to live or am I going to die? Right? Like humans are wired for survival, right? Biologically, we are wired to survive. You throw humans in like the craziest scenarios and they figure it out, right? Like we're wired to survive. Like we'll run, we'll do this, we'll make a fire, whatever, right? Like you'll see heroic stories. We are not wired to thrive. We are not wired for maximum fulfillment. We are not auto-wired for maximum enjoyment to get the most out of life. But we are wired to survive and replicate, right? We are auto-wired. Like nobody had to teach you about sex. It came with you. Like if you put a boy and a girl on an island, there was a movie about this, but like, without teaching them about sex, around 13, 14, they're going to have sex, right? You're wired. It's in you, right? They're going to survive. They're going to eat. They're going to do certain things. They're not going to optimize for maximum fulfillment. They're not going to be like, hey, let's have a play and a chaucer and do this. And you know what I mean? Like you have to use a different part of your brain, okay, and your heart to sit down and say, okay, I am going to optimize my life for fulfillment, for net fulfillment. Your body will auto optimize for survival, right? It'll always try and survive, sometimes to its detriment, right? These fear responses, et cetera. That's kind of my explanation. I haven't, the book isn't about that explanation. The book is about how to optimize your life for fulfillment. But these are some of the reasons that I believe that people just kind of do these things where you're just like, you scratch your head. You're like, what?
But when someone listen to this interview and take the book and read the concept of diet with zero, they can get kind of impression that you need to spend all your money as soon as possible. I've got friends, different kind of friends, but this particular one, they are super happy, but they are always it is zero on account. They earn, they spend, they earn, they spend. They are very happy. But from my point of view, it's quite dangerous. If tomorrow something happened to one of them, they will lose the company and so on. They have zero on account. So what kind of advice would you have? Of course, I'm asking you for the question with the ant and grasshopper.
I would say this, like, how you model your life, right? In my book, I offer a model of like, hey, the number one thing humans are solving for is survival, right? And so eventually you're not going to work, right? In the United States of America, you need to save for the time period when you're not going to work or something happens for you.
Like 60, 65, right?
Yeah, 60, 65, or you're going to have, your abilities to work, or even to the day you die, right? And you need, and I call that your survival number. This is something that we are forced to save for, right? Is a survival number. This is not the number where you're 65 and you're traveling around the world or whatever. This is your food, basic shelter number, right? And then we optimize for all the other experiences on top of that. This book is not spend all your money right now. That is not what this book is. This book is model your life so you get the most out of it, right? We are modeling for optimal fulfillment, right? And throughout the course of your life. So if you spend all your money now, okay, and then you have no job or you have an experience, et cetera, say at 30, and you can't do anything, that's not optimal, right? Like then you have negative experience and hard strife, and that can compound, right? And you can be in a very bad situation or an unpleasant situation for a significant amount of time, right? It's like, how do I get the most fulfillment out of my life? How do I spend exactly the right amount at each point in my life, right? And let's take the word spend out of it. How do I allocate the experiences in my life at the exact right point in time, right? So that I get the most experiences possible and the most fulfillment, right? And that is not, when you model it, that is not, at least for 99.99999% of people, that is not spend every single dime that you have right now, right? Depending on who you are. There may be, because there's always somebody, but what if I just want to be a beach bum and collect shells? I'm like, then you're the exception, right? Like, because it depends on who you are and what your value systems are. But I bet if you look at your friend and what he's spending money on and the things he's doing, he's not the guy who'd be happy being a beach bum collecting shells, living off the fish he catches with his hands, right? Like that's not going to be fulfilling to him. So this book is a modeling book, not a light your money on fire book, right? But to get the most out of your life, to live the most optimal life, okay, you end with zero. You 100% ended with zero. Any money left over, right, at the end is wasted opportunity, waste of your life.
You ask a great question for friends that are saying me that, okay, I want to die with $1 million on my bank account. And you in the book pointed that, hey, why are you keeping the money on your account? Just if you want, give it to someone, your kids, or some kind of organization which helps feed kids in Africa. Why you not do it straight away? Not million, but maybe 800,000, right? This question shows different way of looking at such a money left.
Yeah, I mean, we look at the stats, and I show the numbers that like the median age of receiving an inheritance is like 60 or something like that. It's later in your life, which is ludicrous. They're not kids. People are like, well, a lot of times, like the number one question I get about this book is, what about the kids? And I'm like, they're not effing kids when they're 60. And the other thing is that their life and their health declines just like your life, right? So the optimal time to give them money is the same time as for you as for them, right? And it's not, I can tell you, it's not in their 60s, right? That's not when they need the money. That's not when they're going to most be able to enjoy it, right? To have the most experiences, because their health has declined, their time, their obligations, their temperament, etc. And you don't even know if they'll be alive. Like, unfortunately, sometimes our kids die before us, right? And so the maximum impact for money is going to be at their mental peak and their physical peak, which is between, I think Physical maturity is 33, mental peak is 28, right? Give or take, right? Now, some people aren't as mature to save money, whatever. So like, you know, my recommendation to my friends, et cetera, is like, after 33, like whatever you're going to give them, right? And when I say spend all your money, I mean your money, not the kids' money. If you have in your mind, I want to give kids this money, then separate it out, put it in a trust for an account for them. That doesn't mean they get the money when they're 5, right? You know, or 18
even
people blow
16.
the money. It just means it's separate from you. So if you get into a lawsuit or you get sued or whatever, all your money can be gone because you did something bad, but not theirs because it's already separate and given to them. But they get control of that when they're physically and mentally mature to have it, and when they're at an age where it'll have the maximum impact, which is not 60, which is ludicrous, right? You're like, I'm saving up money to give people to old people. And also the charitable aspect, it's like charity is now. People are starving now. People are suffering now. So you're going to let you're 40 and you're going to live another 36 years. So you're going to have like a generation starve and suffer. So you can give a little bit of money later, a little bit more money later in life. I mean, like there's just no logic in that, no self-consistent logic and that methodology of what I want to do with the money.
So you're saying it's better to give to charity like 70% now instead of 100 like in the next 30 years, right?
Yeah, let's put it this way. Like I use an example of education in the book, right? And I don't know of any higher yielding investment than investing in education. It compounds, it can beat it. So you're putting the money and earning interest, right? And then I'm going to give them the money later is not going to be greater than just educating one child now, right? They help bring up the people around them. They invent things. They become productive themselves. They give to other people, et cetera. So you don't have an investment that can beat your charitable education. And 2, just on a morality standpoint, like I mean, I'm not going to let 100 people of the present suffer and die to help 120 people 36 years from now, right? It just doesn't. It just doesn't match, right? And so, I always say the time is now. Charity is now, right? So for me personally, I have a charitable budget that I give every year, and it goes to the things that I believe need help, et cetera. And I'm not saying people give to the charities I give to. I'm saying that when you allocate, okay, is important. This whole book is a when book, right? It's about timing.
Yeah.
Right? It's about timing. And people are like, oh yeah, I'm going to wait till I'm dying. I'm like, yeah, thanks. Tell the people in the future, hi. You know what I mean? Tell them, that thank you. I'm like, this, life is now.
We are thinking about Polish title for the book, because if we translate like Die with Zero, we cannot translate it perfectly, but I was thinking about the timing, like a word timing, or when, or it's now, something like this.
Yeah, kind of like a when do you live? Like
now or tomorrow. As a parent, I love this example that you showed with the facts and numbers. It's much better to give your kid when he's 20 years old, like 10K, instead of giving this 10K when he's 35. Now I'm 37, so if my mother gave me like 10K, I would say, okay, thank you. But if I get this money when I was 20, I was like, whoa, I'm going to Asia straight away.
Yeah, it depends. I mean, each kid is going to be different, right? Like some people have kids like I can't give them 10K. They're not mature enough to handle 10K, right? They're gonna go right. But generally, the last year, right, of when if you're holding money to give to them now, to give to them later, is like 33, in my opinion, right? It's their lives, right? Like I'm not trying to control my kids. Like you need to be nice to me or I'm gonna cut you out of the will, till you're 60, right? Like, that is the last year, but some people earlier, like you need to think about the timing, right? And each circumstance will be different within a range, but it's not 60. It's not 62. It's not 57. It's not 50, right? That is not the time to be handing over money to your kids, right? It's much sooner.
So what about generating your wealth? Your advice is to invest in yourself, in your education, and become expert in the field XYZ. That's the recommendation. now we're most of the time we spoke about spending money. What about earning money?
Yeah, I think throughout your life, right, you're going to be earning money, um, um, depending on what you do and what your goals are, right? Like, it would be great to know exactly every single experience you wanted to have. Like, if I knew exactly every single experience I wanted to have, then I would know the concept of enough. I need this much money and not a penny more, right? I don't need to earn another dime because I have all the money to do everything I would do, from the Starbucks to the trip to etc. Right? That's the goal of getting in touch with yourself, to understanding what experiences you want to have, to not work and waste your life doing things. And when you have enough, you're like, wow, I get all these other free experiences I could do. I can go to a park, I can go hiking, I can go biking, I can go here, I can go to this free concert, I can go to the library, I can read this book. I can do all these other things that are enjoyable, that give me fulfillment, than going to try and earn money, right? When you understand exactly what you want out of life, what experience you want out. Now, fortunately and unfortunately, that's not how life works, because you discover what you want. Right? Nobody comes out of the womb. It's like, I want to go on a rocket and I want to do X, Y, and Z. And I like chocolate and I hate onions and whatever, right? Like, you go through life and you stick it in your mouth and I hate that. And then, I like this. And you see something, you go to Asia and you're like, oh my God, I love this food, or I love this place, or I want to do this. And you discover other things they're doing, right? And so life has a certain level of discovery, right? That know is out there, right? That we have to go discover, right? And that's going to require some sort of earnings or money or spend to get to it often, right? And so you model for that, right? You try and get as close as possible to accurate, right? In doing that. And so during the book is about balance, right? And I can't balance for you perfectly without knowing your likes, dislikes, and things you want, the architecture in life. But it's about a framework, a mental model in your head to think about: do I need to be grinding right now and earning a lot in my 25 and not going out, etc., because I hate clubs anyway, and I don't like mountain music, and I only like to play chess or whatever, and then because I want to go on this trip or this boat trip later on? Or am I the type of person like, wait a minute, I like clubs and glow sticks and girls and going out and you know what I mean, and socializing, maybe, and I'm not going to be able to do that later in life when I'm married with 5 kids, X, Y, and Z, because that's what I want. So I need to shift, the allocation of my time and my resources to do X, Y, and Z, right? And so, there's a time and balance that is very dependent on you, right? And the framework on how to think about that is in the book. The exact formula, like I should be working overtime in my 20s and less in my 30s, etc., that's not in the book, right? I'm not telling you how to do that, because it's very dependent on you, but the mental model is there.
And self-awareness. I need to know what kind of person I am and I want to become.
Correct.
And look at your model and try to create my own cocktail with different ingredients.
Yeah, and remember, it's not a static model, right? Because you're changing. The more you touch the world and interact with the world, it interacts with you. It changes you, right? And so you're constantly updating that model. You're constantly updating it. Wait a minute. I don't want to get married when I'm 30. I want to go travel X, Y, and Z. I want to do X, Y. Let's update it. And as this continuously updating model, right, both mentally and whatever spreadsheet you put out, like in your time buckets, right? Wait, in 60s, I want to do this, or 35s, I want to do that. That informs you on what you're going to do now. So it's kind of this loop, right, that helps you optimize your life and your ride, right? It's kind of like a self-correcting rocket, right? It's always on target because it's always taking in new information.
And this concept of enough, when I was younger, most of my friends were saying, I need to earn my first million before I'm 30. None of them reached this goal, none of them. But people with different goals, different mindset, they actually achieve this goal. It's not so difficult to earn 1 million. Like most people say, it's super difficult, but plan action and one day you will reach it. So what advice would you give to people who are focused on goals which are too big for them, like now, like my friends of mine he wants to be a millionaire before 30, but he didn't reach this goal and he feels like he's a loser now.
No. I would say like I would say the goal, like I was one of those people too, right? Like I was one of those people like I got to make $1 million, whatever, and you know, I was lucky enough to do it, but I had a quandary because I wasn't really set on what was it for, right? The goal shouldn't have been I want to make $1 million. The goal should have been I want to do these experiences and they cost $1 million. So what happened is that I earned the money and then I was just looking for things to spend it on. Well, I guess I got to buy this expensive car and I guess I got to buy X, Y, and Z. I'm not even a car guy, right?
Me too.
But I didn't know what to do because I was not in touch with what I really wanted. I was just attached to the abstract of money, of what it represented, that I can buy things and do things. But instead of being attached to the things I wanted to do and the things I wanted to buy, the experiences I wanted to consume, right? So the goal should be not I want $1 million before 30, but these are the experiences I want to have when I'm 30, and these are the experiences I want to be able to do when I'm 30, preparing going into my to my 40s, etc. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Then not only that, I think you actually have a better chance of success when you do that because you have more of a purpose. Making $1 million is just an abstract number as a video.
Digital number on your bank account.
Right. But I want to climb Kilimanjaro. It's my purpose and it costs X dollars and I want to do X, Y, and Z and I want to get married here and it's X purpose. It is a much more powerful motivator. It is a much more powerful purpose. And I think it will drive you and focus you more and actually in a way increase the probability of you reaching that goal. Right. And honestly, like you might not even need the money, right? Like you might be like, I want to climb Kilimanjaro. Well, there's this cheaper way to do it this way, whatever. And then you have the same experience. You don't need the $1 million. You don't need to shuffle papers late at night and study and read law journals or whatever job you're doing. You actually get the experience without doing all the bullshit. Right? Because the money is not for the money. Who gives a shit whether it's $1 million, $2 or whatever? What I care about is the experiences I get to have. I mean, like I'm successful. I have a lot of money, but I don't give a rat's ass about the money. I care about the experiences I can do. Right? I care about the boat trip and the plane ride and visiting Barcelona and going here and meeting people and helping these people. But if I could do all those things for 2 cents, I'd do it for 2 cents. I don't need the money.
When we traveled with my wife, like girlfriend and now my wife, we were pissed off. Like we couldn't afford to buy a meal in a restaurant. So our goal was earn as much money that we can just go inside into the restaurant and order whatever we like without looking at the right column with numbers and prices. And when we reached this goal of money, we were able to go to restaurant and just order whatever we wanted. Because I used to work as a waiter in a London restaurant, serving to rich people,
right.
And was pissed off. Hey, there are people on earth that they can spend 100, 200, 300 pounds for a meal. I want to be such a person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I remodeled this for myself. Like, okay, I want to be able to go to the restaurant and spend money and order food without looking at the numbers on the right side. That was my goal instead of earning 1 million. So that's the way.
I think I think my goal is never to care about a price. Yeah, and people have these goals, but I think the more you attach it to experience that you want to have, the more likely you're going to make it. This is not in the book. This is not what I'm preaching in the book or whatever. But this is just kind of my own opinion. Is that that's more powerful, right? Like if you see two guys fighting, okay, and you say that guy's fighting for his kids and his children, whatever. You don't know anything about them. Equal size, whatever. This guy's fighting for survival. If he loses his fight, he's going to die. He's fighting for his kids, and this guy's fighting for fun. Who do you think's going to win? You're going to pick the other guy, right? Not necessarily he's always going to win, but that's the guy you want to pick. This guy has a purpose. He is determined. You know what I mean? He just has this mentality, like the eye of the tiger, or whatever you want to talk about it. And I think that's the same way when you attach the experiences and goals. Is like these are the things you want out of your life. So therefore, your life depends on it. So you're going to start acting as if your life depends on it. You're like two guys in a fight. If this guy's life depends on it, I want to bet on that guy.
So it's like people are afraid of living a full life, like full potential. For example, I hear many people watching, Dan Bilzerian, a friend of yours, right? That they want to become as Dan is with, women, travel, luxury, and so on. But at the same time, they work in a cubicle, scrolling down Instagram instead of taking some kind of actions to be closer to this picture.
Yeah, yeah, you do see that a lot, and I think this is somewhat of a tangent, but I think there's a fear-based fear of failure, a fear of actually going out and trying. And what if you go and take these actions, and even if you fail, that's an adventure in itself that'll produce memory dividends. Like I've had many failures. I've had way more failures than I've had successes, right? But the successes have been home runs. And so, but those failures are great. I mean, I love them. I have learned a lot from them. I have great experiences, and I've done things I'm like, wow, I'm really glad I did that. It was terrible at the time. It sucked losing a bunch of money. It sucked having a whole project in El Salvador go south and all the dreams and hopes that go with it. But I learned a lot, and I had that adventure, and it was great. And I'm proud of it, right?
So you're saying that people are afraid of failures. They're afraid of being judged by someone else, like some strangers on the internet saying that you're a loser. You don't care about opinions of other people, right? Or
yeah,
or do you?
I think that, I mean, I'm not saying that people don't care. I think the less you care, the better, the more likely you're going to be able to do it. I don't think you can ever completely remove your ego. Well, some people could, but I can't, from that.
Some
But I think
monks.
most of the time, I've even said this recently. Whenever I'm losing money or losing something, I'm never ever worried about the money. I'm more worried about other people's thoughts and what they're thinking. And so,
So you're still a bit connected with the idea of other people's opinions. Maybe Jesus was not afraid of
yeah,
other
exactly,
people's
exactly. But that's what it is. A lot of people, and so a lot of people, because of that fear of other people's opinion when they fail, they don't try. Right? You can't get judged when you don't try. Right? What is my mom going to think? What are my friends going to think? Wow, I did this crazy idea and I failed, and now I don't have any money. Right? The pain of no money, you can solve that. Right? You can go get a job. You can wait tables. You can do whatever. Like, it's not that painful. Like, it really isn't. The pain of judgment is what I think really stops a lot of people.
So to sum up this interview, why people should read the book written by Bill Perkins, Die with Zero?
This book will save your life. That's why you should read this book. This book is going to help you not waste the hours of your life and help you get the most you can. According to your values, not my values, but according to your values, you're going to get the most fulfillment out of your life before you die. This book is a lifesaver. That's why you should read this book.
Love it. Love it. Bill, thank you very much for your time. Well, it was almost an hour. Thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome.
I hope that one day we'll be able to meet each other, to go for a beer and just talk about that.
Sure. I like to travel. I got to make it to Poland. So I need to make it there.
Tomorrow?
Tomorrow. Won't be there tomorrow. I'm in Barcelona going to Italy, but yeah, I will definitely head up. I'm coming back, and I will definitely, Poland is on my list.